You won't believe some of these mythical creatures and beings from the Yule and Christmas legends across the world. The Yule Cat, a fluffy creature that eats people who don't receive new clothes. The terrifying Krampus, who eats naughty children. And the big man himself, Santa Claus. Today we're going to explore and discover these amazing beings, so sit back and relax as we talk about the mythical creatures from Yule and Christmas legends here on Wild Mythology. Santa Claus, also known as Saint Nicholas, Kris Kringle, or Father Christmas, is a legendary figure who has become a central and beloved character in the modern celebration of Christmas. Santa Claus is known for residing in the North Pole, where he operates a workshop with a team of elves who craft toys throughout the year. The elves, often depicted as small, whimsical creatures, assist Santa in preparing gifts for children around the world. Then, on Christmas Eve, all the presents are loaded into Santa's magical sack and placed on the back of his sleigh, which is pulled by multiple flying reindeer. Santa then proceeds to deliver presents to all the children around the world, entering houses usually by their chimney and leaving gifts under the Christmas tree and in stockings, all in a single night. The roots of Santa Claus can be tracked back to various historical and mythical figures, including the Norse god Odin, Saint Nicholas, a 4th century Christian bishop known for his generosity and gift-giving, Father Christmas, the personification of Christmas known for bringing feasting and merrymaking, originating from English folklore in the 15th century. And the Dutch figure Sinterklaas, who rides a white horse and delivers presents on December 6th. Together, these figures and the cultures they come from have influenced the origin and modern version of Santa. In today's portrayals, Santa is typically illustrated as a cheerful and plump figure, complete with a white beard and often sporting spectacles. He is commonly dressed in a red ensemble, comprising a jacket, trousers, and hat, all trimmed with white fur. His look is further adorned with a black leather belt and boots, while he carries a sack on his back brimming with presents for children. Some of the most famous traditions concerning Santa include leaving out cookies and milk for him on Christmas Eve, his famous ho 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 laugh, and the process of children sending Santa a letter concerning what gifts they would like for Christmas. Though when it comes to children, Santa has an interesting ability to discern which children have been naughty or nice the previous year. Thus, the concept of Santa's list, where he checks who has been naughty or nice, has become a familiar part of the folklore, with good children receiving presents and those who misbehave receiving lumps of coal. Santa is also famously known to have a wife known as Mrs. Claus. She wears very similar red clothing to Santa and is known to bake amazing cookies, look after the reindeer, and help her husband in making toys and spreading Christmas cheer in the North Pole. Krampus is a mythical being deeply rooted in European folklore, particularly in alpine regions such as Austria, Bavaria, Hungary, and parts of Germany. Traditionally, Krampus is considered the dark counterpart to Saint Nicholas or Santa, the benevolent figure associated with Christmas. While Santa rewards well-behaved children with gifts and treats, the anti-Santa is said to punish misbehaving children in numerous ways during the Christmas season. Krampus is often depicted as a multi-horned, human-like creature with hooves, while also having a fur-covered body and a long, pointed tongue. Chains and bells can commonly be found on his body, symbolizing his ability to bind and control those he captures. He carries a bundle of birch branches, or a whip, which he uses to swat and discipline naughty children. Additionally, he is known to carry a basket or sack on his back to store the especially naughty kids he kidnaps. Those that are captured are said to be eaten, drowned, or even enslaved by Krampus. One famous celebration involving Krampus, known as Krampusnacht or Krampus Night, typically takes place on the evening of December 5th, the night before the feast of St. Nicholas. During Krampus Night, people dress up as Krampus and roam the streets, participating in parades and festivities, as well as scaring children, reminding them to behave in the days leading up to Christmas. The Yule Cat is an Icelandic legend said to originate during the Dark Ages through oral tradition, while appearing in written history beginning in the 19th century. The Yule Cat, or Jólakatturinn, is depicted to be a giant cat that is the size of a house. It has fluffy fur that sharpens into blades when it's angry, and giant glowing eyes that can pierce through any snowstorm. According to legend, the Yule Cat has a connection with clothing, and so goes from house to house on the evening of Christmas Day to check if the home's inhabitants got new clothes as gifts. If they did receive new clothes or gifted new clothes to the less fortunate, the Yule Cat hisses and leaves the inhabitants to their celebrations, moving on to the next house. But if they didn't receive or gift new clothes, the Yule Cat bursts into the home, eats their Christmas dinner as an appetizer, and then devours the people who didn't receive new clothing for their main course. Merry Lwyd is a unique and ancient Welsh folk custom involving a horse's skull that takes place during the winter season, particularly around Christmas and New Year's. This tradition is a form of wassailing, a practice of going door to door singing and bringing good wishes for the coming year. Merry Lwyd involves a group of townfolk carrying a decorated horse's skull on a pole, covered with a white sheet or cloth. The horse's skull is adorned with colorful ribbons and rosettes, and its eyes may be decorated with glass baubles to add an eerie, supernatural touch. The town group participants, known as the Merry Lwyd Singers, dress in traditional Welsh attire, often including top hats and ribbons. On the day of the folk custom, the Merry Lwyd Singers go from house to house and engage in a lively and often humorous exchange of song verses with the residents. The leader of the group, who holds up Merry Lwyd, or Grey Mare as it's known in English, will begin the battle by singing a verse about letting them inside for drinks and food to the home's residents. The residents will then sing back an excuse to why Merry Lwyd and the rest of the singers cannot enter. This exchange will go back and forth until finally one group runs out of verses. If the Merry Lwyd Singers lose, they will move on to the next house, but if they win, the Merry Lwyd Singers will enter the home for food and drink. Gryla is an ogre/witch from Icelandic lore who inhabits the mountains with her husband. While she's sometimes described as a large, ugly old hag, others depict her as a grotesque creature with 15 tails, goat horns and hooves, long ears that stretch to her shoulders, and anywhere from 3 to 3,000 heads. According to legend, she ventures out of her cave on Christmas Day with empty sacks on her back. Gryla has the ability to sense naughty children all year long, so when she comes out on Christmas Day, she searches for those naughty children. Sometimes she'll even ask parents to hand over their most misbehaved child. Once she acquires enough children whom she packs into her sacks, she makes her way back to her cave where she cooks the children into a stew for herself and her lazy third husband, Lwyd, who does nothing but sit in a chair all year long. The Yule Lads are the 13 nasty and mischievous children of Gryla and her third husband. They are known pranksters who enjoy stealing and harassing people during the Christmas season. They inhabit a cave within the mountains with their mother and father, and are depicted as small old dwarves with beards that wear red hats. According to legend, beginning on December 12th, one of the Yule Lads leaves the cave to cause mischief. Each following day until December 25th, another Yule Lad will leave the cave to cause a different type of mischief. With names like Door Slammer, Window Peeper, and Sausage Swiper, each Yule Lad has a unique area of trickery that they specialize in. Sheepcoat Cod harasses sheep and shaves their wool into weird shapes. Gully Gawk hides in ditches and then sneaks into cowsheds to steal milk. Stubby steals cooking and baking pans and eats leftover crusts stuck to them. Spoon Licker licks spoons and then puts them back where he found them. Pot Scrapper steals the pots from entire villages. Bowl Licker hides under beds till everyone falls asleep and then steals their bowls. Door Slammer likes to slam doors during the night to frighten people awake. Scare Gobbler steals everyone's skyr and Icelandic yogurt. Sausage Swiper steals smoked sausage by swooping down from the rafters. Window Peeper peeps through windows and then steals anything that catches his interest. Doorway Sniffer has an amazing sense of smell which he uses to find food to steal, especially leaf bread. Eat Hook steals meat from butchers using a large hook. And finally, Candle Stealer steals candles from homes and children. According to legend, the mischief only begins to end starting Christmas night, where the first Yule Lad that left the cave returns. Each night after, a single Yule Lad journeys back to their cave until all 13 are back home on the night of January 6th. Ded Moroz, often translated as Grandfather Frost, is a prominent and beloved figure in Russian folklore associated with winter and New Year's celebrations. Derived from Slavic mythology and traditions, Ded Moroz has evolved into a key character in Russian and other Slavic country winter folklores, embodying the spirit of winter, festivity, and gift-giving. It's important to mention that unlike Santa, who delivers presents on the night of Christmas Eve, Ded Moroz is connected to Novy God, the Russian phrase for New Year, and so he delivers presents on New Year's Eve. Ded Moroz is often depicted as a very tall, bearded, and skinny grandfatherly figure, dressed in a long blue, red, or white flowing coat, a fur-trimmed hat, fur gloves, and boots. He carries a magical staff and is accompanied by his granddaughter, Snegurochka, who helps him deliver gifts. Unlike Santa, Ded Moroz delivers gifts by foot or by riding a troika, which is a sleigh pulled by 3 horses. Also unlike Santa, Ded Moroz walks through the front door to deliver gifts by leaving them under the New Year's tree. He and his granddaughter have also been known to personally deliver presents to children in the month of December. Another difference from Santa is that Ded Moroz's residence is well known in Russia and can be visited and explored. His home is a grand wooden palace with a large post office next door so that children can mail him what gifts they wish for. Snegurochka, often translated as the Snow Maiden, is a beloved character in Russian folklore and winter traditions. In Russian folklore, Snegurochka is typically depicted as a beautiful young girl with snow-white skin, dressed in a folkloric costume adorned with frosty and icy elements. Her long flowing robe is often blue or silver, symbolizing the colors of winter. Snegurochka is characterized by her stunning beauty, and she is often portrayed wearing a crown or headdress made of snowflakes. She is the granddaughter of Ded Moroz and helps him deliver presents to children around December and on New Year's Eve. There's also a very popular story involving her where Snegurochka is the daughter of Ded Moroz and his wife, Spring. In the story, she yearns for love with a mortal shepherd boy, but her heart is unable to know love. Eventually, Lady Spring takes pity on her daughter and grants her the ability to love. But because Snegurochka has taken on the winter traits of her father, the moment she falls in love, her heart warms and melts, leading to her death. The Tió de Nadal, also known as the Christmas log, is a unique creature from Catalan tradition. The Tió de Nadal takes a wooden log-shaped form, often depicted with a painted-looking face and red hat. The Christmas tradition involving the famous log typically begins on December 8th, the Feast of Immaculate Conception, and continues until Christmas Eve. Families keep the log in their homes, often placing it in a visible location so that the children can feed it small treats like nuts and dried fruits. The children must take good care of the Christmas log by feeding it on time and keeping it warm with a blanket. By doing so, according to the lore, the Christmas log will defecate wonderful presents on Christmas Day. On Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, families gather around the log in a joyful ceremony known as the Kagatio, which translates to pooping log. During this event, children must wait in another room for 5 minutes before returning and then take turns hitting the log with sticks while singing traditional songs that encourage the log to release its presence. The treats hidden inside the hollowed-out log are then revealed, delighting the children with candies, small toys, and other surprises. Another method to release the presents is by putting the Tió de Nadal halfway into a fireplace and ordering it to release the gifts. Santa's reindeer are 8, sometimes 9 reindeer that pull Santa's sleigh across the world on Christmas Eve. Perhaps the most iconic ability of Santa's reindeer is their capability to fly. In many depictions, the reindeer pull Santa's sleigh through the night, navigating effortlessly across continents, allowing Santa to deliver presents to countless households. The origin of Santa's 8 reindeer can be traced back to a famous poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, also known as The Night Before Christmas. This poem, attributed to Clement Clarke Moore and first published in 1823, played a pivotal role in shaping the modern image of Santa Claus and his team of reindeer. The poem describes Santa Claus arriving on Christmas Eve with a sleigh pulled by 8 reindeer: Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Dunder, which would be renamed Donner, and Blixen, which would be renamed Blitzen. These names, along with their distinctive personalities, were popularized by Moore's poem, and the concept of Santa Claus and his reindeer quickly became entrenched in popular culture, appearing in Christmas stories, songs, and illustrations throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. The 9th reindeer, Rudolph, with his glowing nose, was introduced later in the 20th century, created by Robert L. May in 1939 as part of the promotional booklet for the Montgomery Ward department store. Rudolph became an iconic addition to the Santa Claus narrative. While the creation of the reindeer didn't appear until the 19th century, it is believed that the idea of Santa's reindeer has roots in older European folklore and mythology. In Scandinavian folklore, there is a long tradition of stories about the Yule Goat, a creature said to assist the Christmas gift-bringer. While in Norse mythology, there are legends about the god Odin giving gifts while riding the 8-legged horse Sleipnir. The Yule Goat is a fascinating example of how a Yule tradition has evolved over time. The Yule Goat's roots trace back to ancient Scandinavian and Norse pagan festivals, where a goat was sacrificed to appease the gods. There he links the goat to the worship of the Norse god Thor, who rode a chariot drawn by 2 goats. Another explanation connects the tradition to Indo-European harvest customs, where the final sheaf of grain, symbolizing the harvest spirit, was preserved for Yule celebrations. Many early European customs featured goat-like harvest gods, and farmers often likened their bundles to goats due to the resemblance. Over time, in Scandinavia, young men in costumes would go door to door singing songs and playing pranks. This Christmas troupe included the Yule Goat, who was sometimes perceived as rowdy or even scary. They received candy or seasonal treats, and in some customs, a member of each visited household would join the group in going from house to house. In Sweden, the Yule Goat would go on to be believed as an invisible spirit, ensuring correct holiday preparations. Eventually, the Yule Goat evolved into a gift giver, sometimes appearing alongside or in place of Santa Claus. In contemporary Christmas lore, Christmas elves are commonly depicted as Santa Claus's helpers, working diligently at the North Pole and Santa's workshop to craft toys for children around the world. Christmas elves are often portrayed as small, human-like creatures with pointy ears, rosy cheeks, and a cheerful expression. They may be dressed in green or red clothing adorned with jingle bells, and often wearing pointy hats or hood. The origin of Christmas elves is thought to be traced to Norse mythology, where elves were considered supernatural beings associated with nature and fertility. Over time, as legends and cultures mixed across Europe, these elves underwent many transformations, resulting in many similar-like creatures such as the Christmas elves, the Nissies, the Brownies, gnomes, and many others. The first written origins of Christmas elves as Santa's helpers can be traced back to the 19th century, while earlier folklore and traditions include mythical creatures associated with winter and gift-giving. The specific concept of Santa's elves and the North Pole workshops gained popularity through written works, poems, and stories beginning in 1850. According to Italian folklore, Bafana is an old and haggard witch who flies on a broomstick on the eve of Epiphany, the night of January 5th, where she visits children's homes to deliver gifts. She is often depicted wearing a black shawl, a headscarf, comfortable shoes, and is usually covered in soot from going up and down chimneys. In her sack, Bafana carries sweets, small toys, and gifts for well-behaved children. However, for those who have been naughty, she leaves lumps of coal or dark candy. It is customary for families to leave out some wine or regional snacks for her before she arrives. If Bafana enjoys what is offered, she usually uses her flying broom to quickly clean the household. Another legend suggests that Bafana doesn't like being seen. Any that actually get a glance of her will be playfully hit on the head by her broomstick, allowing her to quickly get out of sight. The story of Bafana is rooted in both Christian and pagan elements. One popular legend suggests that Bafana was an ordinary woman who housed the three wise men for the night on their way to visit the baby Jesus. The next day, they invited her to join them, but she declined, citing that she had too much housework to do. Later, she regretted her decision and set out to find the Christ child, bringing gifts for him. Despite her efforts, she never located the baby. As a result, Bafana continues her search for baby Jesus to this day, and although she still searches, she continues to leave gifts for children on January 5th. Belsnickle is a folklore figure with roots in German and Pennsylvanian Dutch traditions. Belsnickle's appearance varies, but he is commonly portrayed wearing tattered clothing, furs, and a wide-brimmed hat. He often carries a sack full of goodies and a switch or a bundle of twigs, which he may use to swat children who have misbehaved. In some depictions, Belsnickle wears a mask or covers his face to maintain an air of mystery. Unlike the benevolent gift-giver figure of St. Nicholas, Belsnickle is known for his stern demeanor and strict adherence to proper behavior. He is believed to visit homes in the weeks leading up to Christmas, and his interactions with children depend on their behavior throughout the year. Well-behaved children may receive small gifts, nuts, or sweets from his sack, while those who have misbehaved may find themselves on the receiving end of a harsh beating from his switch. Jack Frost is a mythical character deeply embedded in European folklore, particularly associated with winter and the onset of frosty weather. In various traditions, Jack Frost is personified as a mischievous sprite, or elemental being, responsible for creating intricate frost patterns on surfaces and covering landscapes with a sparkling layer of ice crystals. In English folklore, Jack Frost is often portrayed as a playful and sometimes nippy sprite who appears on cold winter nights, leaving his frosty signature on windows, plants, and other surfaces. He is described as a nimble figure who dances through the night, touching everything with a frosty charm. Despite his mischievous nature, Jack Frost is not typically considered malevolent. Rather, he is a whimsical character associated with the enchanting beauty of winter. In Scandinavian folklore, a similar character named Jakul Frosti, who is associated with the frost giants and the wintry landscapes of the north. Jakul Frosty, or Frosty Icicle, is a personification of the cold and is often depicted as a giant with icy breath capable of covering the land with frost and snow. Derived from old Greek and pagan traditions, Jack Frost is said to be connected with Old Man Winter, an ancient spirit who makes the environment change to winter with his very presence. And that's all we have for today, folks. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a like and leaving a comment. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you stay updated on all our future videos. Alrighty, folks, see you next time on Wild Mythology.